Welcome to Pick Your Politics. I'm Tiana Carroll, filling in for Dennis Silvers today. So welcome to the show, everybody. And now that we are in the midst of our political climate here in the Valley, we have a special guest who is going to be running for Congress. And we'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Mark Robertson. How are you today, Mark?
Good, Tiana. Thanks for having me.
Hey, good to be here. So you are running for Congress in District 1 here in Las Vegas. And if you are not from the Valley, District 1 is where, as you said, Mark, I love this, it's where all the fun stuff is. So it's basically Allegiant Stadium, the Las Vegas sign downtown, the east side of the Valley, Henderson, and even Boulder City, right?
That's right.
So if you're in any of those areas, you might want to take a listen to what is happening because you are running for Congress against Dina Titus.
Correct.
And you are no stranger to Dina. You guys actually ran against each other a couple of years ago.
We did. Dina's been in Congress for 14 years, and this is the first time I've ever ran for anything. So people are asking for a change, and that's why I'm running.
And that's the goal then. I was going to ask you, why did you decide to run for Congress?
Yeah, this is not a bucket list of mine. This is not something I ever thought I would do. As I said, I've never ran for political office before, but I don't like the direction the country's going, and I thought I'd want to do something. I want my children and my grandchildren to grow up with the same freedoms and opportunities that we've had. And so 3.5 years ago, I sold my business, quit my job, and I've been out talking to Nevadans full-time ever since.
Okay, excellent. So you mentioned it. Dina is a career politician. She's been in Congress now for 14 years. And for those of our listeners who are out there that don't know you, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I was in the military. I spent 30 years in the Army. I enlisted as a private and retired as a colonel.
Okay.
I deployed to 10 different foreign countries, including combat zones in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kuwait.
Okay.
In fact, in Iraq, I served with my own son.
Oh,
yeah.
That's beautiful.
It was an honor for me. It was terrifying for my wife.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. You don't want to see your husband go, and you definitely, as a mother, you do not want to see your baby go off to war.
Yeah, for the entire year that we were gone, she flew a flag outside our house with 2 blue stars, signifying that there were members of the household in harm's way.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you said that you had a business that was here in the Valley?
I did. I have a degree in finance and an MBA, and I owned a financial planning firm, a firm that helped Nevadans plan for their retirement, plan for their children's college education, any of their financial goals. And so for 20 years, I ran that business in Henderson.
Okay. All right. And then you ended up selling that because you want to help the community, and you've just been out hitting the trail since then. Yeah,
I've been very involved in the community throughout the 32 years that we've lived here. You know, working with the Boy Scouts and Little League. I was a basketball and soccer coach when my kids were in those programs, and I've worked with Veterans Organization and with Opportunity Village.
Wow, those are some great organizations.
Yeah, so serving the community and giving back to the community is something that's important to me.
Yeah, I have to agree. I love Las Vegas. I've been here for almost as long as you have, and I think that we have a great community, and one of the best ways to get to know this community is through service.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's really impressive. And now I heard you say that you had a son that you served with and your wife. Tell me a little bit. You have 2 children, right?
We have 4.
Four children.
My wife Leslie and I have 4 kids, and each of those children, each of our kids bought a house in our neighborhood.
Aww.
So we are living the dream. Our 5 grandkids can all walk to our house.
Wow, that's really important. I believe family is everything. So
Me
it's
too.
nice that you have that community of family just right there in your neighborhood. That doesn't happen often.
No, we get together every Sunday for family dinner. But throughout the week, our grandkids are over at our house, and we just love it.
Oh, that's sweet. Are any of the grandkids hitting the trail with you?
Yeah, I have a 15-year-old grandson who's a huge soccer player, but he's been out knocking on doors with me, and my grandkids walked in the 4th of July parade wearing a Robertson for Congress T-shirt. So it's funny, though, my 6-year-old granddaughter, when she was 5 years old and in kindergarten, she came home from school and she says, "Hey, Grandpa." I said, "What, Jane?" She says, "My bus driver's going to vote for you."
Oh, she's out there promoting her papa.
Well,
That is so
sort
cute.
of, because then she said, I said, "Oh, that's great." But then she said, "But I don't want you to win." I said, why not, Jane? And she says, because you won't be here to play with me. And so that almost convinced me not to run.
Yeah, they're pulling on your heartstrings,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Little Jane, that is so sweet. Well, you'll do more good for the community if you do run.
And
So,
my intention
yes.
is to come home every single weekend. You know, Congress is in session for 180 days of the year, and most weekends they're not in session. So I'll come back to the community I represent, among the people I represent, and with my family. So I'll try to come home every weekend.
Yeah, well, that would be appreciated. I know that there's a lot of places across the country that feel they're disconnected from their congressmen because they don't have that physical presence in the community.
Right.
But 32 years in our valley and all of the community service and things that you've done, I feel like you're pretty well grounded in what Vegas is. You must love Vegas.
Yeah, this is our home. This is where our children raised. We have 4 kids, as I mentioned. 2 of them teach, and 2 of them are married to teachers, and so they're in the schools and they're serving Nevadans as well. And so it is our community. It's our home.
I do love and appreciate that. What about any experience? I know you went overseas. Any other foreign experience or anything our listeners should know about?
Yeah, so I was assigned to the Pentagon, and as part of that assignment, I was the United States delegate to the Global Coalition Against ISIS. So it was this 68 nation coalition that came together to come up with the plans to defeat ISIS in Syria and Iraq. They had built that caliphate in Syria and Iraq, and that 68 nation coalition was successful. But I sat at a huge table with, like I said, 68 countries. I wore headphones so that it could be translated from German and French and Arabic, and in front of me was the little American flag. I was proud to represent our country, especially in something that was so successful.
Yeah, that is wonderful. That's awesome. So I think we've gotten to know you a little bit, which is really good as a person, but I think that everybody tuning into the show is really going to want to know what your political views are. And I think this is a great platform for you to go ahead and give us an idea of what you're going to stand for if you were representing us here in Nevada versus, let's say, your opponent, Dina Titus, on some of the issues that are important. Now, I do want to mention that you are you're on the trail. You're doing so many interviews. You've got us this morning, you've got Telemundo this afternoon, and you'll be doing a town hall, a virtual town hall this evening.
That's right.
So if you're listening now and we're here we are on August 29th, if you get this in time, then you can go ahead and go to info@robertsonforcongress.com and get all of the information on tonight's town hall. They have a ton of listener questions set up, or if you have any other information or any other questions, I'm sure you can email info@robertsonforcongress.com and that you can get the information there.
That's right.
But,
if they send us an email, we'll send them a link to the town hall. If they're in time, they can do it live. If not, we'll send them a link to the recording.
okay, and I really appreciate that because the magical world of internet, who knows when you're actually going to see this. But while I have you here, I do want to talk about some of the issues that are important to hear in Nevada. I know that all around the valley, we're talking a lot about, let's start with, inflation. Let's talk about inflation.
As I'm talking to people, inflation and the economy, that's the number one issue they want to talk about. The cost of their groceries and their gas and their rent, everything's going up. And their wages haven't kept pace with that, and they're concerned about that. And so I'm often asked, what will you do about inflation? As I mentioned, I have a degree in finance, so I know how the economy works, and I know what causes inflation. And inflation is caused when the government prints, borrows, and spends money that they don't have.
Right.
And our government has spent $35 trillion that we don't have. That's what's caused inflation. The other driver of inflation is the cost of energy. And the current administration shut down our industry, our energy industries. The first day in, stopped the oil and gas explorations, and that caused gas prices to go up. Gas prices have at one point had almost tripled. And they've come back down, but they're still 50% higher than they were 4 years ago. And the cost of energy drives up the cost of everything because everything moves by truck or rail, and you need energy to produce the goods. And so all of this government spending and the energy costs have driven inflation up, and it's hurting Nevada families, and they want And so you bring it down by reversing what's happened. You stop the excess government spending. You reopen up our energy industry so that we have enough fuel and energy that the prices start coming down. And we've got to do that, and we've got to do that quickly.
Yeah, and that inflation has been a big deal for families in the Valley. On the average, Nevada families are spending about $10,000 a year more than they were.
That's
and
right.
That's substantial.
That's like a tax on everybody caused by the government spending. It's a $10,000 a year tax, and it hurts the low-income people the most.
Yeah, yeah. And you have a lot of constituents who are in the lower income side on certain areas of that District 1.
That's right.
So they're definitely in need of an advocate.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. All right. So sounds like you got inflation under control. You did mention that 2 of your children are teachers and are also married to teachers. So I think that school choice would be something that might be near and dear not only to your constituents, to your family. Tell us about what you plan on doing about that school choice. In Nevada, parents want the ability to choose which school is best for their children, whether that's public, private, or some sort of charter or homeschool. So how do you stand on that school choice?
Yeah, so I support school choice completely. It's one of the things that parents talk to me about the most, and it doesn't matter what their political party is or if they have no party at all. It doesn't matter their economics. In fact, the lower income people want school choice maybe even more than the wealthy, because the wealthy can afford to send their children to private schools.
Yes.
It's the lower incomes and the modest income and the middle class who are trapped in our failing schools. You know, in Nevada, we rank 49th in math, science, and reading. It's terrible what's going on. And so I think parents ought to be able to choose the education option that's best for their child. I think that education decisions should be made as close to the child as possible, not by bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And so I support the elimination of a U.S. Department of Education and take the $86 billion a year that they spend, grant it back to the state in the form of vouchers that parents could use to choose which school option is best for their child. Then you'll have schools competing against each other for those vouchers, for that money that the parents control.
Yeah.
And competition is good. It lifts all people's performance. We just watched the Olympics last month, and that competition encourages everybody to try harder. And so we need that in our schools. We need everybody to try harder to fix our broken school system.
Yeah, so there have been some efforts to fix the school system last year that they decided that they allocated an extra $10,000 a child per child, and that was for the child regardless of where they went to school. So it traveled with them in the Valley. So that should change our rankings. Those numbers haven't come out yet, but that should change our rankings from the very bottom of the list to somewhere in the mid.
That's right. There's a very small number of our students who are offered these scholarships, but it's not available to 100% of the students. It's much less than 10% that's available. And I want to open it to all students. Every parent has the option of choosing which school is best for their child.
Yeah, and education is so incredibly important.
It is. It's important to the future of our country.
Yeah. Yeah, and children are one thing. They are definitely our future, but we also have an aging community and seniors in our Valley. And I know that Social Security has been a topic of conversation, especially among seniors here in the Valley. So the Medicare is headed towards bankruptcy that we're supposed to see in a few years, and seniors could see cuts in their monthly income and raise their health care. So as a congressional candidate, tell me what your stance is on that Social Security.
First of all, we've got to protect and strengthen Social Security. People have paid into this system their entire lives. They are counting on this to be able to retire in dignity. But if we do nothing, just as you said, Tiana, it is headed for bankruptcy.
Right.
And if we do nothing, every senior on seniors and Social Security is going to have to take a 25% cut in pay. Most seniors can't afford to do that.
Yeah, when you're on a limited income, that's just not fair.
Yeah, I think of my mom. When my dad died, my mom's only source of income was the $1,400 that she got a month in Social Security. It's already hard enough to live on $1,400 a month.
Practically impossible.
Right? And so if she would have had to take a 25%, she wouldn't have made it. And so we've got to protect and strengthen. My opponent is saying she's not going to do anything. She says, I will not touch your Social Security, meaning she's not going to do anything. That's like if you were in a car and the car was headed for a cliff, and that's what Social Security is doing. It's headed for a cliff.
Yeah.
You're in a car and it's headed for a cliff, and you say, I won't touch the steering wheel. That makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I've seen some debates where she is keeping her hands off of the subject.
Yeah. And it takes some political courage to do this, because as soon as you step forward and say you're going to fix it, you get attacked. And so my recommendation is a bipartisan group with some experts in there that know how to fix this problem. And you put the solution together, and then you present it to Congress as a take it or leave it. And then you put members of Congress on record. They can either vote for it or against it. That way you'll know which members of Congress truly are for protecting and strengthening Social Security. So I would recommend this bipartisan group, and I would introduce legislation to form such a commission to look at Social Security and Medicare.
Nice. Very nice. All right. Now, we've covered inflation. We've talked about schools. We've talked about Social Security. One of the big things that we hear a lot is the border security. So I know that you have your own opinions on that. So tell us a little bit about your views.
Yeah. So when I'm out talking to people in Nevada, inflation's number one, border is number two. We've got to secure our border to stop the flow of guns and gangs and drugs into our neighborhoods. And people everywhere agree with that. And so the first step is to secure the border. We need to build physical barriers, we need to use electronic barriers, and we need to increase the number of border guards we have protecting our borders. It's a matter of national security. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. And we know that terrorists have been coming across that border. So step one, secure the border. But step two is just as important. We've got to reform our immigration laws. It is too difficult for people who have the skills that we need to legally come into our country. And so we've got to make it so that people who can sustain themselves and who can legally come into our country are able to do so.
I agree.
Whether that's a guest visa or expedited processing of their immigration status. But we've got to stop enticing people to break our laws to come here. And we do that. We're spending hundreds of billions of dollars to provide people who've crossed our border illegally with free food, free housing, free education, free medical care, free cell phones, free everything. We've got to stop spending those hundreds of billions of dollars enticing people to enter our country illegally. That hundreds of billions of dollars could go a long way to strengthen our Social Security and Medicare programs we just talked about. But instead, we're spending it on people who broke our laws to come here. So we need to secure those borders, stop paying people who broke our laws, but then make it easy for people to come into our country who can support themselves and who have skills that we need.
Yes, well, I am all about people being able to come into our country and give support. I believe that we are a nation of immigrants, and we can continue to be, but I do believe that there should be some sort of regulations, and things should go in, say, a proper format.
Yeah. Yeah, you and I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for immigration.
Neither would I. My dad came over from Ireland.
There you go. There you go.
You know, I think this is an amazing country, and I love that we are a nation of immigrants, and I do believe in security for our people, and I would like to see that our borders would be friendly to people who want to come and live the American dream. I'm not trying to squash that in any shape or form, and I believe you're the same way, correct?
I am. 2 weeks ago, I was at the federal courthouse downtown Las Vegas, where a federal judge swore in 58 new Americans.
Nice.
They were from more than 20 different countries.
Beautiful.
So they're from every four corners of the earth. They're coming to America, and these 58 people did it the right way. They legally immigrated to the United States, and then they had the privilege and the honor of becoming American citizens. And it was an emotional and patriotic event to do that, to see these. I shook every one of their hands and congratulated them. And you could just see how happy they were to be to now be called an American citizen.
Yeah, I do a lot of global business, and America still is a desire for a lot of countries, and people do want to come here because our American dream is enticing.
And that's why I'm running. I want to maintain those freedoms and those opportunities for generations to come.
Yeah, yeah. So then we have our last subject I wanted to hit on was abortion. Now, we are an abortion state, and I know there's people who will argue that it should be federal, that it should be state. Where's your abortion stance?
Yeah, so the Supreme Court has already ruled on this. There is nothing in the Constitution that talks about abortion. And when the U.S. Constitution is quiet on a subject, that issue then goes to the states and to we the people. And in Nevada, the people of Nevada have already spoken. Abortion is
Indeed.
legal in Nevada up to 24 weeks for any reason or no reason at all. And as a U.S. congressman, I won't do anything to undo the will of the people that I represent. I'm pro-life, but the people have spoken, and it'll be my responsibility to represent the people. So I will not support any federal legislation that would overturn the will of the people in Nevada. And so that's a settled issue in Nevada, and I won't do anything to overturn that.
Yep, we're a pro-choice state.
Yes.
Yep. And, female, I just want to throw out there that I am a pro-choice person. I believe it is part of healthcare. And I think it should be available to women in case of an emergency. It should be available to women, even if it were a choice, because I don't think that any woman has ever taken abortion lightly. It's something that is emotional, and I think that they should have autonomy over their own body.
That's well said, Tiana, and that is the view of the majority of Nevadans, the
Yes.
people that I will represent. And once again, my job is to represent them.
That's right.
And I won't do anything to overturn their will. That's not true of my opponent, by the way.
No, that is not true of your appointment.
She voted to overturn the will of the people by allowing abortion up to the moment of birth and then to compel taxpayers to pay for it. That's not what the people of Nevada voted for, but she voted to overturn that. I won't do that. I will support the will of the people.
Excellent. Well, we like that because here in Nevada, we like loyalty, and we like especially our representatives, to be loyal to the wishes of the people here in the state.
Yeah, the U.S. Constitution, the very first entity they created was the House of Representatives. The president represents the entire country. Senators represent their states. It is the House of Representatives, it's members of Congress that represent the people. And so I will represent the 750,000 people that live in my district. If they've got a problem with their Social Security check, they should call me. If their veterans benefits haven't kicked in, they should call me.
Oh, you're going to get a lot of phone calls.
I hope so. That's my job. That's what that's the job I'm running for.
That is a responsibility.
If the post office has messed up your mail, call me. If you're standing outside for an hour and a half in the sun waiting for a Social Security appointment, call me. So that's what I will relish the ability to take care of the constituents in my district.
Very nice, Mark. Well, we totally appreciate you coming out here to pick your politics today and giving us an idea of your views. I think that everybody should be educated on politics and policies and know the people that they are voting for. So I think it's great that you're out. Again, he's here today with us. You got an interview with your son, right, on Telemundo?
Yeah,
this
my
afternoon?
son speaks Spanish, and so he's going to help me with that interview.
Yeah, your Telemundo this afternoon. And again, you have the town hall, and that is going to be a virtual town hall. If you don't make it this evening, they will be able to send you a recording of that town hall. Just feel free to email info@robertsonforcongress.com, and they will get that information to you. Mark, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you, Tiana. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
It was wonderful. And for you, Vegas, thank you so much for tuning in to Pick Your Politics. And next week, you will have your regularly scheduled host, Dennis Silvers, back. But for now, I'm Tiana Carroll. Have a wonderful day. Bye.